GIF, it means it's a busy workday.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. We are live, Jeff. We got this show underway. The live stream has started. Right? As we were saying, TGIF, right? Thank goodness. Thank
I'm
goodness.
happy about it personally.
All right.
Yeah. Hmm.
Friday it is. All right, there we are. We are up and running and live. Welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chats. Lee Hayward joined with Jeff Samataro. Da 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 da.
Hmm.
And today we are going to be having a video Q&A. So for those of you who are regulars to the chat, you know how these things work. But for those of you who are new to our video chats, we want to welcome you. It's always nice to have new people joining in, and hopefully we do have some new people joining in. And the way this works is myself and Jeff, we're going to hang out for the next hour, answering questions and topics of discussion related to fitness and nutrition. So if there's anything regarding your workouts, anything regarding your eating plan, regarding building muscle, losing fats, health and wellness, those types of questions and topics of discussion, feel free to type those into our video chat and we'll do the best we can to help you out. So we are streaming simultaneously from Facebook as well as YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, there should be a live stream chat window there. If you're on Facebook, there's probably the comment section, but type in wherever you happen to be, and we'll take it from there. So we have Cool Gamer joining in. Welcome, Cool Gamer. We have Lee Dunnigan over in the UK. Lee's a regular to the chats. Welcome. Glad to hear you. Glad that it is coming through loud and clear. Thank you. Awesome. And this, we were just chatting before we got started here. Now talking about the weather. We always talk about the weather, right? Because that's one thing that's common. But finally, we've been getting some warm weather here in Canada, where I'm to anyway. I know, like throughout the rest of Canada, west of Newfoundland, which is the mainland Canada, if you will, they've been getting warm weather. In fact, super warm, forest fire warm, which is unfortunate, but here in Newfoundland, we finally got some warm weather. So I told Jeff I broke out the shorts this past week. So white legs have been gracing the have been seen for sure. Yeah, but I got out this morning. Got out for a nice bike ride, and it was nice to be able to dress in shorts and t-shirt and not have to wear layers. Finally, yeah, but it's good for sure. What else we have? We have Khalid joining in. Welcome, Khalid. Glad to have you joining in. And Khalid's avatar. That's what we all want to do. We want to strip away, chisel away our physique there and get a nice chisel away the gut and have a lean physique underneath.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. Yeah, we have Robert joining in as well. Robert's got a question there, so we'll jump into that. Just get a few more people popping onto the live stream. I always like to stretch a minute because get the notifications come through. I did post earlier on Facebook that we would be having a live Q&A, but I forgot to post on YouTube. Do apologize for those watching on YouTube. I didn't post it in advance, but there we go. And Jeff, how are things going with your workouts these days?
Good. Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
Recently, I've been working with a trainer, and the gym that where we were working, he's closing it down. He's going to start teaching at another location.
Okay.
So in the meantime, we're going to be working out at a new place just down the road from him. It's called the Athlete's Edge. And yeah, it's a really cool gym. It's like probably like 3 or 4 times the size of where we were working out. I mean, you know that I work out by myself a lot of the time in the basement. So it was really cool going to that like commercial space and working out with other people. And I mean, I don't get to experience that atmosphere too much, so that was pretty cool to go and check it out. And I did like the energy.
Yes,
I did like the energy that was going around the place. It was cool.
That's a good point. I'm glad you actually mentioned that because I know a lot of times people want to work out from home, especially when they're getting started. They probably sometimes feel intimidated about going to a gym, but it's one of those things like if you just bite the bullet and go, it's not as intimidating as a lot of people make it out to be. And when you get there, like very often you'll see some regular folks. Like not everybody who goes to the gym looks like YouTubers and Instagrammers, and they're not all doing, shirtless selfies and, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of regular folks that go to the gym, and it's not as intimidating as a lot of people make it out to be, but there is a lot of energy there. And that's something that I thrive off as well. Like, there's times when I've been, I don't really feel like going to the gym today, but I'm going to do it anyway. And walk in the door, you start going through your warm-up routine and everything else, and the music is playing, and there's other people working out, and you just, now all of a sudden, now you're in that environment, and it's contagious, and you start to feed off that energy. And very often I have some of my great workouts when I didn't really feel like going sometimes, but just getting in that atmosphere, letting that energy pull you up to a higher level is very powerful. Whereas if you're trying to self-motivate yourself at home, it can be challenging at times. Not saying it can't be done. I mean, obviously you've made some great progress working out from home, and I've worked out from home for years as well. But these days I do enjoy that, the camaraderie and the atmosphere of group exercise. Even if you're not training with the other people, just the fact that you're in the gym and feeding off that energy is very powerful.
Yeah, it was cool. And it was a cool like social aspect to it as well. Like we were doing working out on the high rings, and a lot of people came over and were like, "Hey, that's really cool. Like, what are you guys doing?" And so yeah, it was cool. It was cool to meet like some like-minded individuals, feed off of the buzz.
Yeah. So this Athlete's Edge place, is that a gym, like, meaning they got like regular gym equipment, like machines and free weights and all that kind of stuff, as well as the rings and things like that?
Yeah, they do that. It seems like the motto of the place is like more functional style training. So like there's like a lot of like Pilates. There was a Pilates instructor one place doing like a rowing machine and doing a bunch of stuff on the rowing machine. Then they had like a Stairmaster, all like the what's that called? Like an assault bike, I think it's called. Yeah, they had that going. And then they had like a bunch of power racks. They had the high rings, and the guy who owns the place.
That's what it sounds like. Sounds like a CrossFit box almost.
Kinda, yeah. It kind of had that vibe to it. Yeah, the guy who owns the place is a former soccer player. Like he played in the Premier League, I guess. So like, we're doing the high ring stuff, and he's over there on the other side doing the other high ring stuff. And this guy's in incredible shape. He's doing like iron crosses and like all that stuff you see like at the with the Olympics. And I'm like, geez, this guy is just in like freaky shape. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Much respect for anyone who can pull an iron cross. And for those of you who don't know what that is, Google it. It's pretty freaking impressive, but it's basically holding your arms out and supporting them with the rings, right?
Yeah.
Great strength for sure.
Yeah.
All right, we got a few questions that are strolling through, Jeff. So we're going to jump into these because I know you are pressed for time. You're playing a gig later on this evening. For those of you who don't know, Jeff is a real life rock star and has been for many years.
Wouldn't go that far.
A rock star, right? He plays in a band, the Conniption Fits. Boom, boom. He's a drummer.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that is cool. So you're playing a gig tonight, and you have to get ready for that. So we will get into our Q&A. Let us see what we have here. Robert's got the first question. Good morning, good day, good whatever it is in your neck of the woods. For me, it is an afternoon. Jeff, it is an early afternoon. And Robert is a morning. But he says, when doing the elliptical stationary bike, I'm not sure if that means elliptical or stationary bike, but anyway, is there a benefit to pedaling backwards? All right, we got an upside down P there. Pedaling backwards as well as forward. Sometimes I have mixed it up on the elliptical. Like if you're at the gym, the elliptical machines, most of them you have the option of pedal in one direction or you can pedal the backwards direction. I sometimes mix it up. But more often than not, I do go forward because that's just more natural movement for me. But to change it up, you can try it in reverse, and that is one of the cool things about it. It's just changes up the movement pattern. So if you want to do that from time to time, you certainly can. It's still moving. It's still burning fat and calories. It's just changing up the repetitive motion. So it may actually be beneficial from if you have any knee pain or hip pain or something like that, sometimes going in the opposite direction can actually be helpful. I've even seen people do some crazy weird stuff like running on the treadmill in reverse, which kind of looks weird. I've seen and not just like newbies. I've actually seen some advanced people kind of doing that, and because it just changes up the movement pattern. So if you do have some knee pain or hip pain from always going in the same direction, changing that direction could help. Another thing that could help there as well is just changing up the exercise. Like when I do cardio at a gym, if it's long cardio, like let's say I was going to go do an hour of cardio at the gym. I'm not going to do an hour on the stepper or an hour on the treadmill or an hour on whatever. I'm going to break it up. 10 minutes on the elliptical, 10 minutes on the treadmill, 10 minutes on the stepper, 10 minutes on the row or whatever. Take advantage of whatever they got there. And I find that breaks up the movement pattern and makes it a lot more interesting as well. So that's what I like to do. And what you just mentioned, pedaling backwards, it's just another option. Yeah. Have you ever done that, Jeff? Pedal backwards?
I have. You know what? This reminds me of is recently. Yeah, I have been doing the treadmill going backwards, and
Okay.
and I've been doing sled pushing and sled pulling too. And I wonder if this has some kind of carryover to this kind of question as well. So like, yeah, the whole idea behind it is like, you're always walking forward all the time, right? So it's like you're strengthening that movement pattern. Walking backwards, you're going to strengthen that movement pattern as well too. And I heard, I've also heard that it's good for your knees as well to be able to, like push something forward, drag something backwards. Like you're using different parts of your legs, different movement patterns that just, strengthen different aspects of your lower body.
Yeah, the sled is a great example of that. If you have access to the weighted sleds, which a lot of gyms these days do have them, we have them at the gym that we train at. And that is a great way to do it. So like if you push the sled and then you can pull it. So like a lot of times you'll have handles that you can hold on to for pushing it forward. And then you probably have like a chain or a rope or something and a handle attachment. So then you can get on the other side and pull it. So if we're doing it indoors, like they've got a turf section inside where you can drag the sled back and forth, or in the summertime, they actually have an outdoor section where they bring, some stuff outdoors, which is really cool to take advantage of that. And then dragging the sled back and forth. So you can drag it one way and then pull it the other way, or push it one way and drag it the other way. So again, you're working opposing movements patterns there.
Right.
And that's a great way to go about it. But yeah, that's a cool that you mentioned that.
Yeah. Let me tell you, that got my core temperature just through the roof.
Oh, yeah.
That's how we were working. That's how we were warming up. And yeah,
that's a workout in and of itself, right?
It really is. Like your quads are burning like crazy after that.
Yeah. Got Al joining in from Simi Valley, California. I'm not familiar where that is too, but California's huge. So I'm some little valley in California. Have you ever been there, Jeff?
I have not. I've only been to San Diego, California.
Oh, okay. I've been to several places in California, but I've never heard of Simi, or I guess I'm pronouncing it right.
Simi Valley.
Simi Valley, I guess. Yeah. But anyway, welcome, Al. Glad to have you joining in. I'm not sure if I remember seeing Al before or not. So if this is your first time tuning into a live video chat, welcome.
Yeah, nice sunglasses.
Yeah, absolutely. You need them in California.
Yeah.
They have more sun than we do here in Canada. We have Lee's got a question. Is there much nutritional difference between fresh and frozen veg? I prefer fresh, but I've been using frozen lately. That's a good question, and I'm going to address it in the practicalities side of things. Ideally, in the perfect world, it would be nice to have fresh vegetables because fresh vegetables do taste better. But from a practical point of view, you may not always get fresh vegetables, especially depending on where you live and, when the vegetables were picked and stocked on shelf and everything else. The good thing about frozen is they're picked and they're frozen right at that ideal time. And even though the frozen vegetables don't taste quite the same, the nutritional value is the same. So, and they'll last a lot longer. And generally speaking, they're also cheaper as well. Like you buy a bag of frozen vegetables, you'll get much more volume for the same price as you would of buying the equivalent in fresh. Like, for example, you can buy a big bag of frozen broccoli and versus like a head of fresh broccoli. You'll probably get way more volume of the frozen for cheaper than you would the fresh. All right, so that's a nice plus. Same applies with fruit. Like you can buy a big bag of frozen strawberries versus a little pint of fresh strawberries for about the same price. So I mean, you very often get better value for the frozen, and it'll last a lot longer. So it's nice. But I use both. I mean, I keep frozen veggies in the freezer. But ideally, if I can, I like to get the fresh veggies, especially if they're in season and you can get them locally. Locally is even better again. What do you use, Jeff? Do you use a combination of both, or do you have a preference?
I tend to do fresh vegetables during the week, and then on the weekends when I'm strapped for time and I'm on the road a lot, I'll use the frozen vegetables.
Yeah.
I like to do like one pan. I'll do like a bag of mixed vegetables with like black beans and like ground beef or like ground chicken or ground turkey or something, and then throw in some like taco seasoning.
That's nice. Yeah, I've done that before.
Yeah, it's just like a little meal prep thing that you can do and I can take with me on the road. It's like really easy to make. It takes very little time, and the cleanup is very, very quick too. So yeah, like you said, it's a convenient source of vegetables. But yeah, I mean, fresh vegetables taste a million times better.
I mean, you can taste the difference, like a fresh strawberry versus a frozen strawberry. I know that's fruit, but still, same applies. Or you get a nice fresh vegetables taste better. But again, depending on where you live, unless you're in the area where they're growing them and you can get them, picked and picked when they're ripe and ready to eat and in the store ready to go, or you're lucky to get them at a farmer's market or something. That's ideal. But a lot of times, that's not always possible.
Yeah.
Frozen is the ideal situation in those situations.
Yeah, much cheaper. I've been dropping a lot of money. Strawberries are in season right now, and there's a farm right down the road for me. It's like a mile down the road, and I've just been going like every day.
I love fresh strawberries, but yeah, they are a bit pricey, as far as food goes. Whereas frozen, heck, you go to Costco and get a big massive bag of frozen strawberries. It's a great bang for your buck.
Right.
Yeah, we do the same. We get we have the frozen on hand, but it's nice to get the fresh when you can. But yeah, from a nutritional point of view, it's no difference. You'll get the same. From the nutrition side, it's just as good to get both. All right. Can you pronounce that name? Salhadhudin.
Keep going. You got it.
SAA.
I think that's it.
SAA.
I think that's
I know I'm butchering names, but hey, I'll do my best to answer questions.
Just call him Sal.
Sal. Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
Buddy Sal. Right? Sal is joining us. How to prioritize hypertrophy training over volume and functional strength. All right. First off, we really need to break it down like that. That's a lot of times people overthink this, and there is a time for really dialing in for hypertrophy and volume and functionality and whatever, especially if you're more advanced and maybe you're training for a specific sport or something along those lines. Like, prime example, there's a difference in training for powerlifting or weightlifting versus bodybuilding. And then there's a difference again versus just general health and fitness. I lose the gut, get in shape, improve your overall, health and wellness. And a lot of times people start diving into studying this stuff, and then they overthink it. So in order to truly answer this question and give it, answer it specifically for Sal, where are you at in your training? That's what I'd need to know. Like, are you just starting out? Have you been training for years? Like, where are you to? Because a lot of times, again, people are overthinking it and overcomplicating it. But generally, hypertrophy is just a fancy way of saying building muscle. That's it. Hypertrophy, muscle hypertrophy is just building the muscle bigger, right? We can simplify it in layman's terms. And volume, that could mean a lot of things depending on what it is you're training for. But building up volume could be building up your work capacity, your stamina, and we can utilize that. Functional strength, again, that can apply to what it is, what's functional for you, right? That depends on the individual as well. But how do you prioritize hypertrophy over volume or functional training? Well, you could utilize volume and functional strength training to stimulate hypertrophy. So that's where there's a lot of gray area, and there's not like, okay, this is the hypertrophy workout, this is the functional training workout, or whatever. There is a lot of overlap. When it gets more specific is if you are training for a specific sport, as I mentioned, like, a powerlifter who's peaking for a powerlifting meet, or a bodybuilder who's peaking for a bodybuilding competition, or an athlete who's doing functional specific training for their specific sport. But most of us, like, we're kind of in the middle. Like, we can utilize all these things and reap the benefits from it. I mean, in your case, Jeff, like, what do you consider yourself training for now? Like, I know you've changed your training a lot, focusing more on calisthenics and things like that, which could be looked at as functional strength training. But then again, functional in what regard, right? If we have a senior citizen who wants to be able to carry in their groceries without throwing out their back, functional training is different than, someone who's trying to maximize strength and athletic performance, right?
Right. In my case, I'm training more for function at this point. But I mean, I did hypertrophy for years, 4 to 5 years of just like straight hypertrophy training. But the functional training, I can give you like an example, like,
sure, yeah.
In our training, we've been doing mostly like a lot of single leg kind of exercises, a lot of lunges, like split squats, things like that, Cossack squats, a lot of like medial glute training, things like that.
What that last one, Cossack squats? I'm not familiar with that.
It's like where you're like in a very like you're in like a straddle position, almost like very large, like you have a very wide stance, and then you squat down to the left.
Oh, okay.
Squat down to the right.
Before, but I've never heard it.
Yeah. Okay. Love that because it really opens up your hips. It builds up the strength in your adductors, and at the same time, it really like builds up mobility as well. So so like, if, for example, like last week on Thursday, my wife and I, we went on a hike. We hiked Mount Eisenhower, crossed over to this is in New Hampshire, by the way, Eisenhower to Monroe, back to Eisenhower to Pierce, then down Pierce. And it was like an 8-hour day. It was like an 8-hour hike. It was crazy. It was a 4,000
volume right there.
4,000 foot mountain. And going up Mount Eisenhower on the way up, I felt the strongest I've ever felt going up there. And I credit a lot of that single leg exercises that I was doing. It was like every step I was taking, it was like a step up or like a lunge.
Right.
And I just felt really strong everywhere, all the way up. And it felt great. And I've done big hikes like that before, but never that efficiently. And that's where like I had like a moment there where I was like, see, that's right there. That's the training coming out, right? Yeah. That's the day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out training showing itself right there. Like, I'm able to do this and feel really strong. And then the next day woke up too and wasn't like destroyed.
So that's the functional side coming into play, because this is something, okay, you wanted to do that hike, and now you've trained in such a way that you actually were building specific strength and stamina that carried over towards the hiking, which is awesome.
Right. Yeah. Before, I mean, I was just kind of like building muscle, like, I mean, just to build muscle, and
which would be considered hypertrophy, just building like for the sake of building muscle. Yeah.
Right. Hypertrophy. And like for me, like at first that was very motivating and everything, but after a while it just I wasn't very motivated by that anymore. So now, like, having this function of like, okay, I love to hike, and this is something I really love to do, and I want to do bigger hikes and more hiking, then it's more motivating for me to get into the gym and work on these exercises, these very difficult exercises like lunges and split squats and things like that. Those are hard exercises. But if I know that, like, hey, this is going to make me better at something that I love to do, then for me, that's motivating personally. Those are my goals.
Yeah. I like how you brought the performance side into there, because what you've just explained is very common. Once you get yourself into a decent level of shape where you're comfortable in your own skin, then simply training for more of that isn't always motivating, unless you're competing in like bodybuilding or physique or something like that, where you're always pushing it for that next level. But like once you have a physique where, okay, I'm comfortable, I can go to the beach and go to the pool and I'm not embarrassed about my body anymore, and I'm just comfortable with me, then like okay, I can sharpen up my abs a little bit more, but sometimes that's not always the very motivating. But if you have a physical performance side, a functional side to it, that can really add extra motivation. So it's nice to have some sort of sport or activity or things outside of the gym that you can kind of use as a benchmark. And for me now, that's cycling. Like I do a lot of cycling, and kind of carry over like volume and functionality. Last weekend, we did a big ride. It was a group ride, and I posted up a few GoPro video clips up on my Facebook page if anybody wants to go check them out. But it was over 200 miles over the course of Saturday and Sunday. So it was 323 kilometers, which is just over 200 miles, basically 100 miles a day, right? For 2 days in a row, back to back. And I had the stamina to be able to do that and not feel destroyed afterwards. Now, granted, I did feel, okay, my legs were feeling a bit sore on Monday and Tuesday after, but it wasn't ridiculous, because I did that same ride last year and it did destroy me. Like I could not walk up the stairs on Monday afterwards, right? Whereas this time around, like I was fine. I could function and do things normally, without too much discomfort. I mean, it felt like I had a good workout, but it wasn't to the point where like, oh my God, I feel like I was hit by a truck. Right. So that's functionality. And again, the volume, building up that volume to be able to handle that. But it really depends on what it is you're training for. So
yeah,
we kind of just did an overview of this, but from a good buddy, Sal, if you want some specific help, feel free to reach out. Like I got my contact information down below. Like you can even book in for a strategy session call if you want, and we can discuss, your situation, your goals, what it is you're training for. And if you want to brainstorm some ideas, we can certainly do that. And that applies for anybody watching this, right? If you want to book in for a strategy call, that's something that I do offer. And we can discuss you and your situation and see if we can map out an action plan that's right for you. All right, so where else are we to now? Let's move on. Another question there. What are non-fave Purites sources of protein and fat and carbs?
What are favorite sources of protein, fats, and carbs?
Non-favorites.
What are your favorites and what are your non-favorites?
My favorite source. Well, we'll just decipher this. My favorite sources of protein. I keep it simple. Like I don't go exotic. Meat, chicken, fish, eggs, dairy, protein powder, protein bars. Like that pretty much covers protein. As far as carbohydrates, oatmeal, rice. I eat a lot of wraps. Like I very often I'll mix up meat and veggies and put it on a wrap. Like that's a typical lunch, right? It's quick and simple. It's convenient. As far as another one, which will kind of be in the carb category, but it's the fibrous carbs, vegetables. We kind of talked about fresh and frozen veggies earlier, but I eat a lot of veggies. And my default habits, my go-to habits, there's got to be protein, there's got to be veggies with every meal. If I can't get solid food protein, solid food veggies, then I'll get supplemental protein and supplemental veggies in the form of like protein powders and protein supplements or green powders. So that's supplemental veggies. That's my That's my default, and the carbs will vary depending on my activity level. If I'm really active and I need extra carbohydrates, then I will have more carbohydrates. Like, for example, if I'm on a big bike ride, there's a lot of carbs to fuel that. If I'm having a rest day or a lower activity day, my carbohydrate intake is lower. But the protein and veggies, that always stays high. As far as fats, I don't purposely go out of my way for fats because a lot of times that's piggybacked in with your protein, especially if you're eating meat or eggs and things like that. You're getting a lot of fat there. If you're eating fish, salmon, mackerel, herring, sardines, anything along those lines, you're getting a lot of fat through there. I do supplement with an omega-3 high potency fish oil supplement to make sure that I'm getting omega-3 fatty acids, which are very often missing in a lot of diets. And I also do eat some nuts in moderation, like Brazil nuts and almonds and walnuts and things like that to get some healthy fat in there. Olives and olive oil. But I don't purposely go out of my way. Like, I'm not looking, oh, I need to get some fat in there, because you usually can get enough fat through your diet. Just if you're eating your protein, you're going to get enough fat calories from that alone. How about you, Jeff? Are you kind of in the same boat? I'm assuming you are.
Yeah. Same boat. Yeah.
The Muscle After 40 blueprint. So I'm assuming like that's what we really cover is nutrition and following those kind of core nutrition habits. So anything you want to add to that? Any other?
No, I mean, you pretty much nailed it there. I don't go out of my way to eat fat either, unless I'm doing something that, like hiking, for instance, where I want to get a lot of calories in because I'm burning a lot of calories over the like an endurance activity, something like that. Favorite protein is fish, because I live in New England, and fish in New England is some of the best fish you'll ever have.
Nice.
Carbs, potatoes, rice, oatmeal, bananas, fruit, vegetables. I'm like you. I eat a mountain of vegetables every day.
Good.
Yeah. That's it. I don't really have much to add other than that.
We kind of, and again, if you want some more specifics on that or just discuss nutrition strategies, feel free to reach out. All right. Dante S. Any advice to reduce back pain? I have back pain that comes and goes. Hard to do any heavy lifts when the back pain comes back. It really depends on what that back pain is. What I would recommend, the best thing to do, go to a chiropractor or physiotherapist and get checked out in person to kind of see what it is you've got done there with your back. It's kind of hard to diagnose it from a YouTube comment, right? So that's my advice. Because it might be simple as an alignment from a chiropractor. Like, that stuff works. I remember last year, especially, I had some neck and back issues, and I went to see a chiropractor, and man, a few pops and cracks and everything else. I'm like, whoa, it feels better. It could be a nerve impingement. It could be an alignment issue. That's what I would recommend, to see that first. And then you can look in. And of course, a good chiropractor or a good physiotherapist would be able to recommend exercises that you can do to help rehab that. But that's what I would recommend versus me trying to diagnose it and going into talking about what I think could be the back pain, which I could be totally off, off the mark entirely. So if in doubt, get it checked out. And that's what I would recommend. All right. Jeff, have you ever gone to a chiropractor, gotten alignment done or anything like that?
Yeah, I have, but I didn't really have a positive experience with it. I mean, I can share my experience with back pain if that's all right.
It might help. Feel free.
Yeah. So I used to have upper back pain, like a lot, like in like the necks and my neck and my traps and like up here. And some things that have helped me in the past are, like the back line of your body is all connected, right? So like having really tight hamstrings sometimes can lead to lower back pain. So making sure you're doing mobility and flexibility exercises to try to open that up a little bit. And then another thing that has really, really improved my lower back or my upper back pain is wearing barefoot shoes. And that's a tip that I got from the guy that I'm training with right now.
What do you mean by barefoot shoes? Explain that a bit. Like,
so what barefoot shoes are barefoot shoes. They're shoes that have no heel lift on the back, and they have a wider toe box in the front. And the idea is that when you're wearing regular shoes that have a heel lift to it, you're in this kind of upright position, right? And your calves are contracted. And because of your calves being contracted, your calves get tight. And then because your back line's all connected, your hamstrings will then get tight. And then that'll pull on your lower back, which will then pull on your upper back, et cetera, et cetera. So the idea is to put you back into a more natural alignment. And that has made a huge difference in my upper back pain. I'm not saying that that's what's causing your back pain, but it might be something to look into. It could help. It's certainly not going to hurt. And I've gone as far now where I wear barefoot shoes. I wear barefoot hiking boots.
Is that an actual brand? Barefoot?
There's many different brands. There's like Vivo and Lems.
Shoe with no heel, they call it.
It's like, it's just like a flat shoe with no heel. You can feel the ground underneath it. Yeah, and there's a wider
that term before, the barefoot shoe, but it's interesting you mentioned that, because like one of the shoes that I used for years, especially when I was really into powerlifting, was just the plain old Chuck Taylor's Converse, those canvas flat shoes, and that fits that description perfectly. Like, it's totally flat. There's no heel, there's no arch. They're a wide shoe. And from a gym shoe, like if you're looking for a really good workout shoe, like those canvas Chuck Taylor Converse, or there's a gazillion knockoffs of them as well, which, from a practical point of view, are just as good. Those type of flat canvas shoes are great for the gym because they have a good base. Like, you can do wide stance squats or wide stance deadlifts or these different lunging variations and have good grip to the gym floor. And where there's no arch or heel, you have that solid flat foot connection. And great for deadlifts, great for squats. Because this is a side benefit to it. A lot of people work out in like running shoes or cross trainer shoes, shoes with that cushiony heel and arch. And if you're really pushing it, like you're trying to do like a max effort squat or a max effort deadlift, that cushion actually takes away some of your force because that has to get compressed. So like that could make the difference between like hitting a personal best lift or missing the lift. Like in terms of like someone who's doing like a max effort squat or a max effort deadlift, that just the shoe alone can make a noticeable difference. And that's why you very often see powerlifters will use specific shoes that don't have that soft cushion, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting though. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, and again, this may or may not help in Dante's situation. So like, that's why I recommend, like, it's if you have any issues like that, it is good to get it checked out by a professional, someone who can see you in person versus, just, hey, I got back pain. What do I do? Because like,
it's so general.
It is. It's so generic, and it may help or it may not. But again, the tips that Jeff shared certainly are good ones that could. I mean, they're not going to hurt. Like working on your mobility and flexibility and all that stuff, that's certainly going to help for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we have. Art's a regular to the channel, and that says he signed up for a seniors over 70 deadlift competition.
Good for you, man.
I respect that. I mean, the fact that you're lifting over 70 and you're competing, so you have that competitive side. The only thing I caution is the risk of injury. Powerlifting is a dangerous sport, right? For all ages. I mean, heck, guys in their 20s and 30s, I've seen more injuries in powerlifting than in most other sports. Like, in fact, I'm just thinking of everybody that I know who's been serious into powerlifting. Most of them have torn muscles and blown out knees and backs and God knows what else. So don't hurt yourself. That's all I'm saying. Right? I know the competitive drive can get you there, but hey, right? You use it for what it is, but right? Live to lift another day. That's one of the advice that I heard from a local powerlifter, and it's good advice, Right? Push yourself, but you got to have that sensory acuity to know that this is my limit, right? This is it for today, right? Versus going for gusto and hey, pushing that extra that for that extra PR and end up, setting yourself back with an injury, especially when you're in your 70s, right? Injuries are not easy to heal from at any age, but especially the older you get, the harder they are to recover. But I respect the fact you're pushing forward in your 70s.
Yeah,
I
man.
hope to do the same.
Me too.
I hope to live to be 70 plus and still be healthy and active. We have Neil joining in. Says, what are your thoughts about having canned tuna, sardines, and corned beef as part of a healthy diet? Well, the tuna sardines part, I'm certainly an advocate of. The corned beef, I haven't eaten corned beef in years, but there's a lot of fat in corned beef. It's not the leanest source of protein.
Mhm.
Tuna and sardines, I have no problem with, especially if it's water packed. You're not getting stuff that's packed in like vegetable oils or whatever, which just adds extra empty fat and calories. But water packed fish, yeah, I mean, I have it from time to time. I mean, it's not the most tasty gourmet meal, but it's quick, it's convenient, and it certainly is a good source of protein. And in the case of sardines, especially, you're getting some healthy fats in there from the fish. What about you, Jeff? Have you ever eaten corned beef?
Yeah, that was my college.
Was it?
Oh yeah, when I had
Right?
no money and I was in college and I was just
Budget meat.
exactly. Yeah, I'd have eggs and corned beef. That
Yeah.
was my breakfast like every day.
Right. I
Yep.
mean, you're getting calories, and yeah, you are getting meat, but it's not the ideal source. I would have,
Questionable.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. But yeah, the canned fish, I don't go overboard with it. Now, when I was younger, like kind of in the same boat as Jeff is, when I was in college, like I was eating at least a can of tuna every single day just because it was a cheap source of protein. And it got to the point where I turned myself from it. So now I might have a can of tuna every month
Mm.
because I just can't stand it to eat it on a regular basis. But when I was younger, I mean, 1 or 2 cans a day, literally,
Yeah.
in day out, just because it was cheap.
I
I
have
I was just gonna say, I find that like tuna used to be really cheap, but like everything, it's gone up in price. Like I used to get it for like less than $1 a can, and now it's like over $1, sometimes $2 a can, depending on the brand or whatever.
mm,
It's not as cheap as it used to be. But then again, what is?
that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I have canned pink salmon that I really like.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have they make these like little mini cans of canned albacore that I'll throw on top of a salad sometimes just for like a little
Sure.
extra protein boost. And sardines, I love sardines, but I'm not allowed to eat them anymore because they stink something fierce and my wife won't let me buy them. So
I'm in the same boat. Well, everyone knows, like, oh, Harvey will mention, oh, what's that smell? And then mom say, oh, dad's eating, sardines or something like that, whatever. Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
as soon as you crack open the can, right? The aroma just floats through the house everywhere.
Everybody knows.
Now that summer is here, like, hey, go out on the patio and eat your sardines, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And we recycle all our cans and stuff like that, obviously, the cans and bottles and whatever. But if I crack open a can of sardines, Trish says, don't throw that into the recycle bin. Like, that's going in the trash, and
Yeah.
get that out
Mhm.
of the house.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I get that too. I get that too from Kayla. She's like,
Right?
goes right outside.
Just stinky sardine can sitting in the recycle bin, just
Yeah,
aroma linger.
right. And I won't even notice it too. I'll just be like, "Oh, I don't know." She'll come in the house. She'll be like, "What died?"
Oh. I got a follow-up question for Art. I this one must have got caught in between another question there, but Art's the guy who's doing the deadlift competition, and he says, "Do you have any tips for me?" Art, I actually have a deadlift program that would help, and I'm going to share this. I'm just going to find it really quick. It's right up on my blog. If you just go to leehayward.com and search for 7-week deadlift program. In fact, I'm even going to just go to Google. Lee Hayward 7-week deadlift program. This is a program that I used many times, and it's kind of like a peaking program. So if you are at least 7 weeks out, you should be able to find that. Let me see. Or you can just go to leehayward.com/blog/deadlifting-101. I'm going to type the link in because when I say that, people are not going to be able to get that properly. There should be in the chat window there. Check that out. It actually covers deadlift technique, all the different styles from conventional, sumo, stiff leg, Romanian, all that. Find out, first off, you got to find out what you're stronger at, whether it's a conventional or a sumo. I'm stronger with conventional deadlift. Some people are stronger with sumo. Jeff, do you have a preference? Are you stronger with one or the other?
I'm stronger with sumo than I am with
a lot of people are. Yeah, but
it's a mobility thing for me more than like I some people can get really deep with a straight back on a traditional deadlift, and for me, like I can't. So the wide stance helps me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, with a sumo deadlift, you can generally you're more upright and you get more leg drive from it. But I found it's close, but I am stronger with a conventional deadlift. Like I've hit heavier weights with a conventional. But with that being said, training both, like it's ironic because you're working complementary movements. So if you build up your sumo stronger, that'll also help strengthen your conventional. Vice versa, you build up your conventional, help strengthen your sumo. But find out what, from a competition point of view, you want to find out what you specialize in, what's your specific deadlift style, and then obviously you want to train that for the competition. And that 7-week deadlift program is certainly be a good one to help peak your strength, assuming you've got 7 weeks to train for your competition or more. All right, so let's
like personally, just one more. I like trap bar deadlifting the best, personally.
Yeah, that's another great variation. Again, you're more upright and there's a lot more leg drive versus the barbell deadlift. But I'm assuming in a deadlift competition, it will be a barbell deadlift. Which, not saying that the trap bar deadlift is not going to be a good assistant exercise, but you want to train for what you are going to compete in so that you are comfortable with it. Sure. Let's see what else we've got. Jason is joining us. Hi, Coach. Have you done much studying in EMG research as it applies to which exercises activate more muscle fibers in specific muscle group? I believe what you're referring to is electromagnetic something or another. I think that's what you mean by the EMG, where they hook all the electrodes up and see, okay, how much muscle activation is in different, when you do a specific exercise, like how much muscle activation is in a barbell curl versus a dumbbell curl, or how much muscle activation is in a bench press versus a push-up or something like that. I have never done any specific research. Like I've never had myself hooked up to electrodes and done this. I have read some research about it in the past, but from a practical point of view, do the exercises and what works best for you. Because even though you might find a study that says, hey, this exercise has been scientifically proven to activate 23.2% more muscle fibers than this one, you may find the complete opposite. Like you might do a bench press and say, man, I get a killer pump in the chest with a bench press. Someone else might do a push-up and say, man, I get a killer pump in the chest from a push-up, right? Like, obviously both are still good exercises, but you may find one particular movement works better than another based on your individual body makeup, your individual leverages. So, I mean, not saying don't follow the studies or read it, take it in, but then kind of make it your own and say, hey, does your actual results match what the study says? And it may or it may not, right? And if you find that a particular exercise works better, then I would go with that. Right? Have you noticed that, Jeff? Like when you're doing certain exercises, like certain variations, you find work way better than other variations.
Yeah. Just like we were just talking about with deadlifting, it's like,
yeah, same idea.
Yeah, it's the same idea. I go with what feels good, and just because I've had like injuries in the past and doing things that don't feel good, but doing them anyway.
That's another thing to take in. I never even mentioned that, but that's another point. Yeah, if you have past injuries or mobility issues, you may not be able to do the so-called best muscle stimulation exercise because it just doesn't feel comfortable, or you can't do that movement pattern. So that's another thing to factor in. Just from I just want to share this. Like, I remember in it was an old book I had there somewhere. It was a training program written by Tom Platz back in the day. And he broke down exercises into different categories based on neuromuscular activation, which is basically how much muscle activation different movements give you. And he ranked body weight exercises as the highest level of neuromuscular activation, which makes sense. Like, body weight exercises are very challenging. And when you rep out to failure with a body weight exercise, you get a deeper level of muscle fatigue. So if you rep out to failure with push-ups or dips, chances are you'll get more fatigue than if you repped out to failure with a chest press or a bench press. Same with a squat. Like, that's why squats are harder than leg presses, even though you lift more weight with a leg press. And it is hard, don't get me wrong, but squats are harder. And same with pull-ups are harder than pull-downs. Similar movement pattern, but the fact that you're moving your entire body through space in that real three-dimensional environment, there's more neuromuscular activation, and this is typically a higher level of muscular fatigue. The next level would be like free weight compound exercises. So again, your bench presses, your deadlifts, your rows, shoulder presses, whatever, those type of movements. What was the next one? Then you have your isolation exercises would be the next level down. Then you'd have like your compound machine exercises. And then the lowest level would be like machine isolation exercises in terms of neuromuscular activation. Now, with that being said, it doesn't mean that machine isolation exercises are useless, but you're not going to get the same level of fatigue or true stimulation from them. But again, it really comes down to trial and error on your part and finding what works the best for you, because sometimes this stuff can fly completely, real world results can sometimes be complete opposite of what a scientific study says or what the research says. Yeah. Like, I'll give you a prime example of this. A lot of science studies say the leg extension is useless, yet most professional bodybuilders who have the biggest quadriceps in the world do leg extensions on a regular basis because it helps to isolate the quads. Now, obviously, they do other exercises as well, but I found that, like, even though a lot of people say, oh, leg extension is a useless exercise, don't do it, right? You're better off doing lunges and squats and everything else. I think, yeah, lunges and squats certainly do have their place, but man, if you want to isolate your quads and bring up that stubborn area, leg extensions work, right? Yeah. I've done it. So there is a time and a place for isolation exercises, even if it's not the science research says it may or may not be good. You have to look at what works for you.
You'll push yourself harder with exercises that feel good for you too.
Yeah, like, what gives you a good pump? Like, a lot of times you might do an exercise, and even though it's a good movement, like maybe it's a big compound free weight movement or whatever, if it doesn't work for you, then you don't have to do it. Like, for example, this is a common one I hear a lot. People say, I can't get a pump in my chest doing bench presses. Like, my triceps or my shoulders, I feel that, but I don't feel my chest. Well, maybe you want to change up the movement pattern, right? Do something that you can feel the chest working.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. What else we got? We'll just run through here because I know you got to run soon. You have where are you playing tonight, Jeff? I always ask.
I'm playing in Enfield, New Hampshire, and then I'm playing at a wedding tomorrow.
A wedding? Oh, okay. Yeah. Do you do many weddings? I guess in the summertime, do you do more?
Summertime and in the fall, we do. It's a lot of weddings. Yep. Big money in weddings. So wedding season. I like wedding season.
Wedding. There you go. Talking about the the canned fish. Robert was saying pickled herring tastes good. Pickled herring. Yeah, I do like herring. I don't eat a lot of it for the same reason of, and Robert actually mentioned that. Nobody will let me eat herring around them. Right?
Yeah.
If you have any pets in the house, especially like a cat or something, they probably love you, right? Because stinky food, animals just are drawn to it.
Oh, my dogs come running when I open up that can of sardines. Yep.
Right? Yeah. And your wife goes running the opposite direction.
Exactly. Yep.
Let's see what we got. Thanks, Lee and Jeff. Fun conversation. Having a trip down memory lane in college. Cheers and have a great weekend to you both. Awesome. Thank you much, Neil. And I think that is actually our last comment that came through there. A couple other guys joining in. We got Ray joining in. Hey, Ray. Ray's a regular to our chat and on our Facebook as well. But I think that's all the questions that came through. If I did miss any, I do apologize. But it seems that that's what came through on my end there. All right, so we're right at the top of the hour there. So, Jeff, we will clue it up. Thank you so much for joining in. I always enjoy having a video chat with you.
Nice I enjoy it too, Lee. Thanks so much for having me.
And hopefully have a good gig. Is the weather going to hold tonight?
Yeah, well, it's 80 degrees today. It's been raining for like 2 weeks. Last week we were playing a gig on Saturday, and we're starting to play and everything, and like getting into it, and then all of a sudden it just started downpouring like crazy.
Was it outdoors?
It was outdoors. Yeah, we had like a tent over us, but it was like a flimsy tent, right? So yeah. I just I look at the singer and he's looking at me and he's like, we gotta get out of here. And you just see, because we have all this electronic equipment on stage and everything. So you just see so you just see the rain pouring down around us. So we just hit that last note, thanks for coming by. Poof. And then everything gets moved to the middle of the tent and we're all just like frantic. So today's 80 degrees, a lot less stress. Just set up, play. It'll be fun.
Gotcha. Is this an outdoor gig tonight?
Yeah. They're pretty much all outdoor gigs in the summertime.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Which is nice when the weather holds.
Oh yeah. No, I love it. I love playing outside. It's a lot of fun.
Good. Well, hopefully you have a good one, and we'll be in touch, and hopefully we'll do the same thing again next week. And just a heads up, I always post the schedule to these video chats up on my Facebook page in advance, because if Jeff is joining in, we usually do the earlier chats. If I'm running solo, I sometimes do it a bit later, but it's always a Friday afternoon. And even if you do miss the live stream, the replay is posted up afterwards as well. And just a heads up, if anybody has a question that they want to submit in advance, feel free to do that. Like you say, contact information down below. You can hit me up over on Facebook. That'd be the easiest way. I'm quite active over there. Friend me up on Facebook. Send me a private message. And if you have any questions or anything you want me to cover in a future video chat, let me know. And if you would like some help with a customized fitness and nutrition program, reach out to me as well. And, of course, Jeff's got his contact information. You still making videos over on Instagram? Like, the home fitness videos and stuff? Yeah.
I am. Yeah. Yep. Still posting on there regularly.
Cool. So again, check out Jeff over on Instagram. He's got a lot of content there showing some home gym workouts and some cool body weight movements now that you've been doing that over the past several months.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting quite good at them too.
Thanks. I mean, I'm working real hard and I practice every day. So I appreciate you saying that.
Right? Like it compounds, right? That consistency compounds, man. Right?
Yeah. Improvement. Sure. But it's nice, having that baseline of strength starting this program up, that I developed working with you for all those years, because getting into this program here, like a lot of these things like came, I don't want to say easily, I had to work for them, but I mean, I easier. Yeah. Thanks to that baseline of strength. So yeah, no, it's been great. Love it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're trying to start from scratch into more advanced training, I mean, you can't do it. You got to build up that base level of fitness first before you specialize.
Yeah, 100%.
But awesome. So again, guys, check it out. Links in the description below. And if you need any help, feel free to reach out. And in the meantime, have yourself a fantastic weekend. And happy Canada Day in advance to my Canadian friends. Tomorrow is Canada Day. Yeah. And a few days later, we got Independence Day.
That's right.
For our U.S. friends. So celebrate, enjoy, and we'll talk to you next week. All right, take care. Over and out. In the broadcast.